The smell hits you before the silence does. 3 weeks after the grid goes down, the suburbs don't smell like wood smoke or gunpowder. They smell like a medieval city in July. You are walking down a quiet street, rifle slung low, checking perimeters. The threat isn't a roving gang of marauders yet. The threat is invisible, it is microscopic, and it is currently festering in the overflowing toilets of every single house on your block. While everyone was stocking up on ammo and freeze-dried beef stroganoff, they forgot the one biological imperative that doesn't stop just because the law did. Everyone has to go. And right now, your neighbour Dave is dumping a 5-gallon bucket of raw sewage into the storm drain uphill from your garden. He thinks he is solving a problem. He is actually building a biological weapon that will kill your kids faster than a sniper ever could. Welcome to the sanitation crisis. Most survival plans stop at the mouth. You plan what goes in, calories, water, meds. But if you do not have a rigorous, militaristic plan for what comes out, you are not surviving. You are camping in a petri dish. History is very clear on this. Dysentery and cholera have killed more soldiers than bullets in almost every major conflict prior to World War II. In a grid-down scenario, we revert to those statistics immediately. Today, we are digging in. We are talking about the unsexy, back-breaking, nauseating work of emergency sanitation. We are going to cover how to site, dig, and manage a latrine that won't poison your water table. If you want to survive the first month without dying of dehydration in a pool of your own waste, you need to secure your spot in this briefing right now. Pay attention. Let's go back to day 3. The power has been out for 72 hours. The water pressure in the taps died yesterday morning. Inside a standard colonial house, a family is starting to panic. The master bathroom toilet contains the waste of 4 people from the last day. The smell is starting to bleed into the bedroom. The father, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy, grabs a bucket of grey water from the rain barrel, takes the tank lid off, and pours it in to force a flush. It works. The bowl clears. He feels a surge of triumph. He has hacked the system. He tells the kids to keep using the toilet as long as they have bucket water. He thinks he is MacGyver. He has no idea what is happening 20 feet under his front lawn. Here is the failed reaction. That father is relying on muscle memory from a world that no longer exists. He assumes the pipes are a magic void that takes waste away. But without municipal power, the lift stations, the electric pumps that push sewage through the system against gravity, are dead. That waste isn't going to the treatment plant. It is sitting in the main line under the street. As the neighbours do the same thing, that line fills up. It becomes a pressurized vessel of raw sewage. Eventually, physics takes over. The lowest point in the system isn't the treatment plant anymore. It is the basement drain in the house at the bottom of the hill. By forcing the flush, the neighbourhood is literally priming a sewage grenade that is going to blow back into someone's living space. You need to understand the mechanics. Modern sanitation is a hydromechanical system dependent on continuous flow and electrical pumping. When the water stops, the flow stops. If you continue to put solids into a pipe that has no flow, you create a concrete-like plug. Once the grid fails, your toilet is not a toilet. It is a porcelain chair with a hole that leads to a biohazard. The rule is absolute. If the municipal water is off, the toilet is dead. Tape it shut. Do not use it as a bucket. Do not try to flush it with pool water. The pipes inside your house have water traps, those U-bends, that keep sewer gas out. If you flush them dry or clog them, you invite methane and pathogens directly into your shelter. You must immediately transition to an external or bucket-based system. The luxury of indoor plumbing ended the moment the lights went out. Now, add the complication. You aren't just dealing with your pipes, you are dealing with gravity. If you live in a low-lying area or the ground floor of an apartment complex, you are in the kill zone. When the main sewer lines back up, they will seek release. I have seen aftermaths of floods where basements were filled to the ceiling with the entire neighbourhood's waste. In a grid-down scenario, if you hear gurgling in your basement drains, that is the monster knocking. You need to plug those drains immediately. Sandbags, expanding plugs, whatever you have. But the psychological blow is worse. You realise that your fortress, your home, has turned against you. You can no longer defecate inside. You have to go outside. And that is where the real tactical nightmare begins. Because now, you are exposed. Day 5. You have taped the toilets shut. You have a shovel in your hand. It is 2 a.m. because you don't want the neighbours to see where you are setting up your infrastructure. You are standing in your backyard. To your left is the vegetable garden, your calorie lifeline. To your right, the property line, 10 feet from your neighbour's fence. Downslope is the small creek that you are planning to use for washing water. You are holding a flashlight with a red lens, scanning the dirt. You feel the pressure. If you dig in the wrong spot, you contaminate the creek. If you dig too close to the house, the flies will invade your kitchen. If you dig too far, you are exposed to sniper fire or observation every time you need to relieve yourself. This isn't just landscaping. This is tactical engineering. Most people panic and choose convenience. They dig a shallow trench right behind the garage, maybe 5 meters from the back door. They think, I don't want to walk far in the rain. It makes sense in the short term, but then the rain actually comes. A heavy summer downpour hits the loose soil of that shallow trench. The water table rises. Suddenly, that trench isn't containing anything, it is overflowing. The runoff, carrying billions of Vibrio cholerae bacteria, washes across the patio, under the back door, and tracks into the house on everyone's boots. By trying to stay close and dry, they have just turned their entire ground floor into a contamination zone. They didn't respect the topography. Here is the math you follow, written in stone by the Sphere Handbook and Refugee Camp Standards. You need distance. Your latrine must be at least 30 metres from any groundwater source. That means your well or your neighbour's well. It needs to be 50 metres from any surface water, like that creek. And crucially, it must be downhill. Water flows down. Leachate, the liquid juice of sewage, flows down. You need to know the hydrogeology of your yard. If the water table is high, you cannot dig a deep pit. You will hit water and poison the aquifer. In that case, you have to build up using an elevated mound latrine. But for most, you are looking for a spot 30 to 50 metres away, downwind to control odours, and with soil stable enough to hold a vertical cut. This is your red zone. No food production happens here. No children play here. The complication is the soil itself. The diagrams always show perfect loam. Real life gives you clay or sand. If you have heavy clay, the liquid won't drain. The pit will fill up with fluid incredibly fast, turning into a septic soup that overflows. If you have loose sand, the walls will collapse on you while you are digging, or worse, while you are using it. I read a report from a refugee crisis where sandy soil caused latrines to collapse, creating sinkholes of waste. If you are in sand, you have to line the pit. You need 55-gallon drums with the bottoms cut out, or timber shoring, or tyres stacked in a column. You are not just digging a hole, you are building a subterranean structure. If you don't reinforce it, the earth will take it back, and it will be messy. Day 7. It is time to dig the real pit. Not a cat hole, a long-term latrine. You are malnourished because rations are tight. It is 90 degrees out. You are breaking ground on a hole that needs to be 1 metre wide and 2 metres deep. Do you know how much dirt that is? It is roughly 3 tons of earth. You are sweating, blistering and exhausted. Every scoop of earth feels heavier than the last. Your family is watching you. They are scared. The reality of their new life is setting in. This isn't a camping trip. This is medieval labour. And you have to do it fast because the temporary bucket system you've been using is getting dangerous to manage. The common failure here is laziness born of exhaustion. People dig what we call cat holes, 6 inches deep, used once, covered up. It seems hygienic, but in a static survival situation, meaning you are staying in your home, a family of 4 using cat holes creates a minefield. Within 2 weeks, your yard is honeycombed with shallow pockets of feces. The dogs dig them up. The rain washes them out. You run out of space. You step in one while checking the fence line. It destroys morale and sanitation. Cat holes are for mobile evasion. For a homestead, you need a centralised, deep repository. Do not scatter the enemy. Contain him. The target dimensions for a family pit latrine are specific. You want a volume of roughly 0.06 cubic metres per person per year. But for emergency use, aim for a pit at least 1.5 to 2 metres deep. The footprint should be small, maybe 0.8 metres by 1 metre. Why small? Because it is easier to cover. A wide pit is hard to span with a safe slab. You dig straight down. Keep the spoils, the dirt you removed, nearby but not right on the edge where the weight can collapse the wall. You need to mound that dirt up around the rim of the pit to create a berm. This prevents surface rainwater from flowing into your pit and flooding it. This is critical. The pit must be higher than the surrounding ground. You are building a fortress against water ingress. Here is the tactical complication. A fresh mound of earth is a visual beacon. In a hostile environment, piles of fresh dirt scream, "Human activity here." It looks like a grave or a bunker. Drones or scavengers looking for thermal signatures or visual anomalies will spot a raw earth berm from hundreds of yards away. You have to camouflage the work. You need to break up the outline with brush, tarps that match the foliage, or sod saved from the excavation. And you need to do this while ensuring the ventilation pipe, which we will discuss, doesn't act like a chimney, piping the smell of your presence directly to the nose of a hungry group passing downwind. Construction is combat engineering. Concealment matters. The hole is dug. Now you have to stand over it. Imagine the psychological shift. You are used to porcelain, water, privacy, reading a magazine. Now you are balancing on 2 muddy planks over a dark, deep pit that smells of death. It is night. You are vulnerable. Your pants are around your ankles. You can't run. You can't fight. This is the moment of peak vulnerability. If you have children, they will be terrified of falling in. If they are scared, they won't use it. They will hold it in, causing constipation, or they will go in the corner of the garden where they feel safe. And that is how the breach happens. The infrastructure has to be inviting enough to actually be used, or it fails. The amateur reaction is to leave the pit open or cover it with a flimsy piece of plywood. This creates 2 disasters. First, the smell becomes a physical wall that prevents you from approaching. Second, and more importantly, flies. Flies are not annoying, they are vectors. A fly lands on the waste in the open pit, picks up microscopic fecal matter on its legs, flies 50 metres to your kitchen, and lands on your rice. That is the transmission chain. By leaving the pit unsealed, you are building a highway for bacteria. You might as well eat from the toilet. The pit must be sealed tight against insects.
You need a sandplat, a sanitation platform.
In a perfect world, you pour a concrete slab with a keyhole shape. It's smooth, easy to clean, and safe. In a grid-down improvised world, you use sturdy timber. You build a floor that covers the entire pit, anchored well into the solid ground outside the edges. The drop hole should be small enough that a child cannot fall through, but large enough for use. And you need a lid, a tight-fitting lid that is kept on the hole 100% of the time it is not in use. To upgrade this to a VIP, ventilated improved pit, you add a vertical pipe from the pit extending above head height. Cover the top with a fly screen. Wind blowing over the pipe sucks air out of the pit, pulling smells away from the user and trapping flies in the screen. This simple pipe changes the experience from a nightmare to a manageable chore. The complication is cleaning. Rough timber absorbs urine and fecal matter. It stays damp. It breeds bacteria. If you use raw wood for your platform, you can't sanitize it. You kneel on it, you get it on your clothes, you track it back to your bed. You need to make that surface impermeable. If you have plastic sheeting, wrap the wood. If you have extra linoleum or vinyl flooring, nail it down. Even painting the wood with marine varnish helps. You need a surface you can hit with a bleach solution or boiling water daily. If the platform itself becomes a fomite, a contaminated object, then using the latrine becomes a self-infecting act. Smooth surfaces save lives. Week 4. The latrine is working, but the enemy has changed tactics. It's no longer about the big piles of waste. It's about the microscopic dust. You come out of the latrine. You used a bit of old newspaper for wiping because the toilet paper ran out on day 10. Your hands look clean, but they aren't. Under your fingernails, in the ridges of your fingerprints, are thousands of Vibrio cholerae bacteria. You walk to the rain barrel to get a drink. You dip the ladle in. That's it. You just infected the entire water supply for your group. One touch. One moment of fatigue where you skipped the wash. Now the water barrel is a biological weapon. When water is scarce, the first thing people cut is hygiene. I can't waste a gallon washing my hands. I need to drink it. This is the logic that kills you. You can survive on slightly less water intake, but you cannot survive cholera. The reaction to hoard water by skipping hygiene is suicidal. You have to separate your water stocks. Potable water for drinking and grey water for cleaning. But you never, ever skip the hand wash after the latrine. It is a non-negotiable ritual, like checking the chamber of your weapon. The solution is the tippy tap. It is the most efficient water-saving device ever invented for hygiene. You take a plastic jug, an old milk jug or oil container. Poke a small hole near the handle and hang it from a stick or branch. You tie a string to the neck and run it down to a foot pedal on the ground. When you step on the pedal, the jug tips, releasing a tiny, controlled stream of water. You can wash your hands thoroughly with less than 40 millilitres of water. No taps to touch with dirty hands. Alongside it, you keep soap. If you have no soap, you use wood ash. Ash is alkaline. It creates an inhospitable environment for bacteria and acts as an abrasive. It isn't comfortable, but it works. The tippy tap must be right at the exit of the latrine. If you have to walk 10 feet to wash, you won't do it. The complication is that soap runs out fast. Faster than food. And unlike ammo, you can't scavenge it easily once the stores are picked clean. Without surfactants to break down the oils on your skin, water alone doesn't remove the pathogens effectively. You need to be prepared to make soap from animal fat and lye from wood ash, if this goes long term. But in the interim, you have to treat soap like gold. You don't use the good bar soap for washing bodies. You save the high-strength antibacterial agents specifically for the latrine station. If you lose the ability to degrease your hands, you lose the ability to break the fecal-oral route. Stockpile cheap bar soap now. It lasts forever and trades at a premium. It happens in week 6. Maybe it was the neighbour. Maybe it was a fly. But your youngest child wakes up in the middle of the night. Cramping. Then the diarrhea starts. It's not normal. It's voluminous, watery, pale, rice water stool. The smell is distinct, fishy and sweet. This is cholera. The fluid loss is terrifying, up to a litre an hour. The child is deflating before your eyes, skin losing elasticity, eyes sunken. Now, the latrine you built is not just a bathroom. It is the epicentre of a biological hot zone. Every fluid that leaves that child's body is millions of times more infectious than regular waste. Panic sets in. You want to help them, hold them, clean them. But every time you touch them, you are risking the rest of the group. The failed reaction is to treat the sick person in the main living quarters, using the shared latrine. The family gathers round. They share towels. They carry the bucket to the main pit. This ensures that within 48 hours, everyone has it. If everyone gets sick at once, who fetches the water? Who stokes the fire? Who holds the perimeter? No one. The group dies of dehydration in their beds, surrounded by supplies they are too weak to open. You cannot let compassion override quarantine protocols. You have to treat the patient like a hazmat incident. You need an isolation latrine, a separate pit dug specifically for the sick. Or, if they are too weak to move, a bucket system that is emptied into a dedicated hot pit that is heavily dosed with lime or chlorine every time. One caregiver is assigned. That person wears gloves, a mask, and protective outer layers that do not enter the main house. They wash in a heavy chlorine solution. The patient's waste is treated as nuclear fallout. You must hydrate the patient aggressively. Oral rehydration salts, ORS, are more valuable than antibiotics here. You mix 6 teaspoons of sugar and half a teaspoon of salt into a litre of safe water. You spoon feed it. You keep the fluids going in faster than they come out. That is the only way to win. The complication is if you lose the fight. A body dead from cholera is still infectious. Extremely infectious. The fluids leak. If you wash the body for burial rites using your drinking water source, or bury them near the water table, you perpetuate the cycle. This happens in outbreaks all the time. Funerals become super spreader events. In a survival situation, you must wrap the body in plastic or sealed bags. You bury them deep, far from the water, and you disinfect everything they touched. It is harsh, and it is heartbreaking. But the bacteria does not care about your grief. It is waiting for you to make a mistake. 6 months later. You survived the outbreak, but now you have a new problem. The pit is full. You look down the hole and the waste is only a foot from the surface. The smell is worse. Flies are starting to find ways in. The ground around it is soft. You are out of space in your primary safe zone. You have to move the infrastructure. But the yard is small and the seasons are changing. The ground is freezing hard. You realise that sanitation isn't a one-time project. It is a migratory cycle. The error is pushing the pit too far. Just one more week, you say. Then a heavy rain comes, the pit fills with water, and because the sludge level was too high, it overflows the brim. Now your entire backyard is contaminated. You cannot salvage it. You have to abandon the sector. The rule is the 0.5 metre limit. When the waste is half a metre from the top, the pit is dead. Close it.
To close a pit, you backfill it with the soil you saved. You mound it up high because the waste will decompose and settle, creating a depression later. You mark it. Use a rock, a stake, something permanent. You need to know, and your children need to know, not to dig there for at least 2 years. Nature will do the work. The bacteria will die off, the compost will form. Eventually, it becomes fertile earth. But for now, it is a dormant hazard. You move the slab, the shelter, and the tippy-tap to the new site you scouted months ago. The cycle begins again. You have mastered the hole in the ground. You have stopped the cholera. You have secured your water. You feel safe. But you shouldn't. Because while you were looking down at the dirt, perfecting your hygiene, you stopped watching the horizon. A column of smoke is rising from the town 3 miles upwind. The wind is shifting, and it's carrying something heavier than just the smell of fires. It's carrying chemical fallout from the industrial plant that just lost its containment cooling. Your latrine won't help you with what's coming next. The biological war is over. The chemical war has just begun. If you want to know how to seal your home against an atmosphere that melts lung tissue, you need to be here for the next briefing. Secure your gear. Stay safe. You survived the simulation. Now survive the reality. Equip yourself at the official supply depot. Because if the world is going to end, you might as well look prepared.